for Tuesday, July 28, 2015, for the city of Coffeyville, Kansas. Tonight's invocation will be conducted by Pastor Doug Munn with the Grace Fellowship Church. After the invocation, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Commissioners, staff, and everyone here, thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to thank James Grimmett for his service through the last year. As I believe this is your last meeting, a special prayer to you, and thank you for you. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Lord God Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, we ask you tonight to fill us with the knowledge of your will through all spiritual wisdom and understanding. We pray this in order that we may live a life worthy of you and that we may please you in every way. Help us, Lord, to bear fruit in every good work. Help us to grow in our knowledge of you. Strengthen us, Lord, with all power according to your glorious might, so that we may have endurance and patience and the will to do what is set before us, so that we may bring hope, renewal, revival, and restoration to our community. Bless our commissioners. Bless Mr. Grimmett for the work he has done. Bless our city employees here and at work tonight. Bless our new city manager coming, Kendall Francis. Thank you for our emergency service personnel and police and fire and all that they do. For our linemen and plant operators, those that work in the water department, and all those who work in public services, working in our streets, oftentimes dodging traffic, and drivers such as myself who need to pay more attention as we drive down the streets. Thank you for all their hard work and diligence, Lord, oftentimes without thanks and merely with simple complaints. But Lord, bless them and thank them for the work they do. We joyfully thank you and praise you, Father, that you have qualified us and given us by your grace to share in an inheritance set apart for all that believe in you, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. We pray this, Almighty God, empowered by your Holy Spirit. In the name and character of your Son, Jesus Christ, we pray that these things may be and come to pass. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start tonight's meeting by addressing the regular City Commission meeting minutes for Tuesday, July 14th, 2015. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes, Commissioners?
No, sir.
I have none.
Okay. Seeing none, the minutes will be approved. Moving on to 2015 Appropriation Ordinance Number AO-15-13 in the amount of $5,353,106.03. Commissioners, do you have any questions about the appropriation ordinance?
I do not.
Motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Powell and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve the consent agenda as presented. Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
2015 Appropriation Ordinance Number AO-15-13A in the amount of $482.81. Commissioners, questions? Seeing none, I move that we approve Appropriation Ordinance AO-15-13A.
Second.
Motion was made by Mayor Williams and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve appropriation ordinance number AO-15-13A. Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye. Public hearing and special proclamations, a presentation of the fiscal year 2014 audit report by Neil Phillips of Neil Phillips, Gerald Gilmore and Phillips. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. All right. Everybody's got their hard copies.
Yes.
Let's skip right past that letter and drive right into the audit.
Sounds good.
The audit report is the first 3 pages of the document, page 1, 2, and 3. It gets a little longer each year, but first talks about what we audited, being the city of Coffeyville as of December 31st, 2014. The second paragraph talks about management's responsibilities and the fact that every number in here is your number and your representations with what happened with the city last year. The next couple paragraphs talks about the auditor's responsibilities and the fact that we audit following auditing standards that are generally accepted in the United States of America. We follow the Kansas Municipal Audit and Accounting Guide. And because of the federal money that flowed through the city this last year, we actually had an additional set where we had to follow government auditing standards. So when you think about the audit process that we do, we actually had 3 layers of standards that we had to follow to complete your audit, to verify the numbers that you have before you. The last couple of paragraphs there talk about the basis for an adverse opinion and actually continue on to the top of the next page. In the state of Kansas, we are allowed to do what they call following the regulatory basis of accounting, which is cash basis and budget laws, meaning you can't spend the money if you don't have it in the bank, meaning you can't even obligate it, and you can't spend it unless you have public approval. That public approval usually is through the budget process. You go through the public hearing, then you have your capital projects that actually aren't specifically budgeted funds, but that's where each of those separate projects are individually approved. The second paragraph on the bottom of page 2 is actually the most important paragraph in the entire document. In our opinion, the financial statement referred to above presents fairly in all material respects the aggregate cash and unencumbered cash balance of the city of Coffeyville, Kansas as of December 31st, 2014, and the aggregate receipts and expenditures for the year then ended in accordance with the financial reporting provisions of the Kansas Municipal Audit and Accounting Guide described in Note 1. So what you have there is what they would call an unmodified opinion on the regulatory basis of accounting, which what that means to you is that the numbers that are presented we feel are accurate, materially accurate representations of what happened during the year and how you ended the year. Then the next few paragraphs talks about the supplemental information and talks about the reports and the fact that we did audit everything that's been bound into this document. And the very last paragraph talks about the government auditing standards because we did follow those additional layer of standards. There are some other reports that are out there, and we do bind those in the back of this, so you'll see those here in just a little bit. Page 4 and 5, a lot of information there. That's all the different funds of the city. Starts out with beginning unencumbered cash, then that's your cash receipts, and then your expenditures, which expenditures include encumbrances and accounts payable, to get an ending unencumbered cash balance. An ending unencumbered cash balance is a lot of times what a lot of people refer to as your reserves. How much money you're carrying over, your cash carryover. I think you've probably heard that a lot lately with talking with budget, cash carryover numbers. That's the unencumbered cash that you carry into the next year. So the cash is unobligated. The statement number 1 here actually breaks your funds down into the different types. You've got the general fund, which is the very top line. Then the next section is actually called the special purpose funds. Your special purpose funds are monies that you collect for a said purpose and can only spend them for that purpose. One of the examples there is like your local alcoholic liquor tax. Every time somebody buys liquor at one of the stores, a bar, some of that money goes to the state, comes back to you. You can't spend it on streets and alleys. You have to set it aside for the said purpose. Capital improvement funds is one of the big ones that you have there. Those are actually monies you have set aside specifically for capital projects into the future. And as you know, being commissioned, capital projects can only fall within the 5-year plan. So that's a savings account that you've set aside so that you can meet your 5-year plan of making capital improvements to the city. You've also got your equipment reserve, your airport fund. Those are all monies that are collected for a said purpose. Then you've got your bond and interest funds partway down the page there. Those are monies that are set aside specifically to pay your bond payments. Then you got your capital project funds, and those are always separated out because your capital projects, those are the funds, I said a minute ago, those are the ones that have to have specific approval by the commission. That's the public approval that's given for those. Because you don't set out a public hearing for those, you actually have separate projects. And a lot of times that's why you'll see these engineers or these construction guys come back to you with a change order that's only $1,000. because they know by law you can't pay them unless they come back and they get that approval for that change order for $1,000, because it's got to have specific approval. Then the next section there is what they call the business funds. And in the state of Kansas, 3 years ago, they decided to change that name to the business funds because they wanted you and the public to realize that those utility funds are treated as a business. And truthfully, by statute, they are written to be a business, meaning any profit you can make on those, you can do anything you want with them. But state statute says that you do have to make all those payments of that utility before you can say it's profit. All the bills have to be paid. So otherwise, we can use that money to transfer to the general fund to help lower taxes, or use that money to purchase things. A lot of times we'll see like a electric fund, maybe they'll buy street lights, maybe they'll spend money on some streets. It's not that it's only for electric projects. That profit can be used for anything that you decide as a commission you could use it for. So looking at your beginning unencumbered cash, you're going to see that you actually, I'm looking down at the very bottom totals, you can see that actually the city of Coffeyville had a pretty good year. We started the year out with $30,293,000 of unobligated cash, unencumbered cash, brought in $97 million, then turned around and spent $95 million, so actually had a $2 million increase in our unencumbered cash reserves. It's a good thing. What I will point out, though, is I believe that you guys did pass a fund balance policy here a year or more ago. Your general fund sitting up there at the very top, you can see there they started out the year with $974, brought in $12 million, spent $12 million, ended the year with $1,118,000. That's only a little bit over 1 month of funds set aside. The goal there is always a lot higher than 1 month. You don't get your first tax payment until the end of January, so it's always good to have at least a 2 to 3 month carryover in the general fund. So that number is just a little bit low, but I'm not sitting here saying that you're in any trouble or anything. Nope, don't put those kind of words in my mouth. If you go down to towards the bottom, you're going to see the electric fund. I'm going to point that one out too. Your electric fund is sitting there with 3.8, and that doesn't even take into account the reserves, 3.8 months. That doesn't even take into account the reserves, which is the very next line down. So as you look down through there, you're going to see you're sitting in a pretty good position. But my understanding is you did issue $60 million of bonds coming up, so some of those reserves might be spent in the next year on the big projects you have coming up. Then the last two columns, you add back the encumbrances or the payables to reconcile to the actual cash balances that you had as a city. And then down towards the very bottom, you're going to see what makes up that cash in bank, and the different bank accounts that you had. Is there questions about Statement 1? It's kind of highly summarized, a lot of information on that page, but it brings it all up into totals. I always like this one the best too, just because it shows us our reserves, our ending cash carryovers, because that's truthfully when we're in the government, that's what our goal is to make sure that we can carry cash over so that our next year's budget will be solvent. All right, let's turn to page 6, and the rest of this will go a lot quicker here, because I'm not going to go page by page. 6 through 18 is the notes, the words to back up the numbers that are on the prior page on statement number 1. Footnote number 1 by far is the longest. It's summary of significant accounting policies. If you pick up any audit in the state of Kansas, most of them are using the same cash basis and budget laws, and so these footnotes are pretty much going to be same. Page 6 and 7 actually gets a little specific about your city. Let's see here. Page 9, footnote number 2. I might point out that one. Footnote number 2 talks about stewardship, compliance, and accountability. We are required to test statutes as we're here. As you know, we can't test every statute that's out there. We'd be here all year round. Staff would hate us. They give us the Kansas Municipal Audit and Accounting Guide, which we talked about we follow. They annually give us a checklist of different statutes to test. And this year's statute checklist, I will tell you, was 9 pages long. And so we tested you on that many different types of statutes. As you read through the footnote number 2 there on the bottom of page 9, you're going to see we didn't point anything out. So you were actually able to satisfy all of those statutes that we were required to test for this year. Page 10 talks about, continues on with bond requirements. We talked about the cash that you have in the bank. You actually had $5.4 million of that cash that was required to be set aside by your bond. So, and this footnote here just talks about that compliance, talks about that you are in compliance with your bond requirements, and you did meet all those requirements. So your bondholders will be able to pick up the audit and say, yes, they did. Footnote number 3 talks about investments, how you can invest your money, where you can invest your money, and talks about how yours is invested. Page 12 and 13 is the schedule of long-term debt, the mortgages, the loans, the bonds that you have as a city. You can see there we started the year out with $19 million. We paid that down by 1.8, so actually ended the year with $17,800,000 of bonds. And capital, it's a combination of all your different loans. The bottom of that page is the long-term schedule of maturities. Those are done in 5-year phases there. You got the next 5 years and then 5-year chunks after that. Because of your 5-year planning, your requirement that you actually do capital projects, improvements in 5-year phases. So it kind of gives you an idea when some of your debt's going to pay off. All right. I'm not going to sit and read the rest of these to you. I'm going to have you turn all the way back to page 19 in the interest of time in your meeting that you have tonight here. Page 19 is schedule number 1, where the front one was statement number 1. Schedule number 1 is to show users at a glance that you're in compliance with the budget laws of the state of Kansas, meaning we had public approval to spend all of our money. Very last column, you glance down through there. If any of those were over budget, you'd be in violation of Kansas statutes. As you look down through there, you're going to see they're all positive. I would point out, with your big bond agreement coming up, there is an exemption to that law that says if you have a signed bond agreement in place, that you are allowed to go negative. So when Stephanie comes to you and wants to make one of those big $21 million payments or something like that to the for your bond project, and you know you don't have that cash in the bank, you are allowed by statute to write that check, wait for reimbursement to issue that check. So just point that out, because you will be probably seeing some funds go negative once you get into this bond project in the new year. Page 20, and for the next 39 pages is the detail. This lays it out in your state budget format, such as the very top line is your ad valorem tax. We put a prior year column in there so you can see the prior year numbers. You can see in 2013 you collected $3,500,000 of property taxes. In 2014 you collected $1,541,000, and you actually had levied $1,547,000. So that $5,000 difference there is some delinquent taxpayers. Money's not coming in, waiting to come in the future periods. I'm not going to sit and go through each of these different lines. It should be numbers that you've seen before. I'm happy to say that we did not have one audit adjustment with this year's numbers, so what you're seeing before you is what you have seen and approved in the past. Fiscal staff that you have is very competent and takes care of your numbers and provides you very accurate numbers on a monthly basis. So I'm going to have you flip all the way back to page 64. And that's and the reason for that is I'm not going to go through each of those different funds. And if you do end up having questions, Stephanie knows where every number in this thing came from, but if she can't answer your question, I'll be glad to always try to answer that question for you. Page 64 is the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. Anytime the city brings in more than $500,000 of federal money, you're required to have the additional audit procedures performed, meaning we follow government auditing standards. In this case, you can see that expenditures in the last column, you actually spent $564,000 of federal money within the city. Something I always point out, it's been a couple years since you've had a single audit, but President Obama, when he issued his American Recovery Act money, said that every federal dollar spent in the local economy has a 7 times turnover ratio. You know, a lot of times economic development, they say 5 or 6. He says when it's coming from the federal tax base, it has that one more flipping time. So if you think about the $564,000, take that times 7, that came out of the federal taxpayers' pockets rather than our local taxpayers' pockets. Something to think about. Page 65 and 66 is the Independent Auditor's Report on Internal Control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters based on an audit of financial statements performed in accordance with government auditing standards. This is looking at internal controls and compliance at the upper level. When you read the first 3 paragraphs after that bold heading of internal control over financial reporting, that would be if we came in and found some problems. We didn't like the way you were doing cash receipting. We found a problem with the way you were issuing checks, or found a problem with the way she was reporting to you. It would be reported in there. And as you read through that, you're going to see that we did not have any of those type of issues come up. The compliance and other matters at the bottom of the report is, as we were doing the testing, if we would have came across any Department of Labor issues, IRS issues, the upper level issues, they would be disclosed here to you. And as you read through there, you're going to see that there were no those type of issues that were disclosed. Page 67 and 68 takes that down a level to what we call the major program level. And because of the federal money that you received, we were actually required to test at least 50% of your money for compliance with federal laws and regulations. Most of the time, in the case like with you, you do pay somebody to administer those grants, and so you don't have to worry as much about meeting these laws and requirements, but we still are required to test them to make sure that the people you paid to administer those grants properly did their job. And as you read through those two pages, 67, 68, you're going to see that it was an unmodified opinion in which we had no problems encountered, in which in this last year we tested your community development block grant and your airport improvement program. Page 69 is where everybody says I should have turned to in the first place. The first paragraph there talks about the fact that you had an unmodified opinion on the regulatory basis of county. That was the pages 1, 2, and 3 report. Internal control over financial reporting, that next bold heading, you can see those 3 are marked no. That was the report that was on page 65 and 66. Then the bold heading that says federal awards, that's the report that's on page 67 and 68. You can glance down through there. It's all no reportings, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and was an unmodified opinion. Middle of the page talks about the 2 programs that we audited as major, meaning we tested the federal compliance. Auditee qualify as a low-risk auditee. That's marked in no. It is marked in no right now. That is purely an audit check, audit designation. Trying to think of the word to spit out there. I apologize. What that means to you is that you've got to go 3 full years with the full single audit with no findings to become a low-risk auditee. And those of you who've been on the commission before, you'll think back, this is the first time in probably 3 to 4 years that we've been over the 500,000 to even have that compliance requirement tested. So unless you are over the 500 in the next 2 years and have clean audits then you would become a low-risk auditee. But because you did not have one last year, we don't get to count it, if that makes any sense. The next 2 sections are financial statement findings and federal award findings, and you can see they both say no or none. Let's talk about the other letter that's in yours real quick. This will go real quick. This letter is in your packets only. This doesn't go out to our bond council, doesn't go to the state of Kansas, doesn't go to our grantors. This letter is what we used to come to you orally talk to you about. It's now required that we put it in writing and we call it our presentation letter. It is important that you read through those first 2 pages because there's a lot of good information on there, but as you read through it, you're going to see that we had no problems with management. We didn't have to consult any outside accountants because you were doing something weird. Then the last few pages of that is what we call the management representation letter. Management and the auditor, it's always signed between management and the auditors. In the past, that was signed between management and the auditors. You actually didn't see it. We're now required to disclose that to you so you can see what representations have been made. We call it the reminder letter because as management reads through it, they should have talked to me about everything that's in that letter. If they didn't, they really need to because that's all important information in there. Questions of me?
So what, excuse me, we had a meeting before, and basically what I'm taking away from this audit is that you didn't find any discrepancies or any type of issues, in reference to our accounting procedures with the city of Coffeyville. However, you would recommend that we increase our ending fund balance to, what did you say, a 2 or 3 month?
Yep, that would be the goal for the general fund.
Okay. And I believe if my recalling history, we discussed that last year as well.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Nope, everything went really well with the audit. I would say the only thing I would actually recommend, and I don't say that it's important enough to be in writing, is that I really feel like your finance department needs some additional help. It just there's a lot of work to be done in there, and I didn't talk to Stephanie or James about this. I'm just throwing that out as I was thinking about it as I was driving here today, and I was thinking, there's one recommendation I could make, it'd be to get some additional staff in that finance department, because they are overworked with the amount of stuff they have and the reporting they have to do. The bond council, you're getting ready to issue $60 million worth of bonds. That's going to be a lot of checks to be written.
Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else,
I
thank you.
don't have any
Do
questions.
you guys
It's very
have any
thorough.
questions?
All right, thank you.
We'll move on to the public comments section of the meeting. This portion of the meeting is designed to provide the public the opportunity to step forward and address the commission. When you step forward, we ask that you provide your name and your address, and then address the commission with whatever concerns that you may have that you'd like to bring forward to the community. Does anyone have any questions or comments for the commission? Yes, sir. If you'd step forward and up to the podium, state your name, address, and feel free to speak openly to a certain extent.
David Thornbrew, actually Route 1, Box 316-6, South Coffeyville. I have an issue with the Restlawn Cemetery being taken care of. I
Okay.
do have photos. I have a daughter buried there in the Babyland. And July 6th, I had to take care of that whole section because it was mowed around and never was taken care of. 20 days later, I go back and they have sprayed weed killer over the whole front section. And then the back section where my daughter's buried, they did do nothing. And then just beyond that, where there's like 2 or 3 others, they did clean that. And I also have photos of that.
Let's see your photos. First of all, I mean, I guess I'd start out like apologizing for the condition that the cemetery's in. And I know that in the I don't want to go through the whole, this is, we took over the cemetery and we weren't prepared for it, but we took it over prematurely, and all that's true, but at some point, you have to step up to the plate and quit making excuses. So I guess it's my fault. So I'll take responsibility for it, and it'll get fixed.
I mean, to me, it's kind of hard to tell my 8-year-old son when he asks me how come they don't take care of my sissy's grave. I mean,
We have a new city manager coming Monday, and I plan on having an in-depth conversation with him about it. I worked out there when I was a kid, so I know what it takes to do the job. So, trust me, I have issue with it. And I can't guarantee it's going to get fixed, but I can guarantee whatever I can do to make sure it gets fixed is going to get done. But I can't do it overnight, but it will get done. That's the best I can give you right now. Trust me, I hear you. I've heard several people. My mom's out there. I get it.
Like I said, at some point, you're either going to take responsibility for it or you're not. And it's our responsibility. We took it on, and we need to do a better job, and we will.
Thank you.
It's a true statement.
Thank you for coming.
Sorry.
Anybody else have anything additional that they'd like to address the commission?
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Jim C. Taylor Sr. I live at 704 Spruce, and I find that what I want to do tonight, I cannot hardly do as I want to do it. I'm reading under agenda procedure number 2. Speakers should address the commission, not members of the public or city staff. I wanted for myself and my peers and associates to make an informal thank you to our city manager for the call he answered and the work he's done. I wish you'd pass that on to him for all of us. Thank you.
Any further addressing the commission?
Debbie Sharp, 1402 South Willow. I just want to let everybody know how good our police department actually is. I know we've gotten a bunch of bad publicity and everything. But on July the 15th, my grandson and his girlfriend were involved in a car accident at Elm and 11th Street. The first officer there was Stephanie Randall. Second one was Rocky Yale. As soon as I arrived, she kind of broke it down and explained to me what she figured had happened. And she took the other driver's statement, and she took my grandson's. But I want you to know how much we appreciate these two officers, because in talking with my grandson, he's 18, his first accident, of course he was very upset. They did everything in their power to try and calm him down, reassure him that this happens. In fact, Stephanie even told us about an accident she'd had where someone actually hit the back end of her police car. You know, she said, and if you can't see that, something's wrong. But they handled my grandson and his girlfriend and everybody with complete respect and professionalism, along with compassion. You know, they didn't treat him like he was a kid. They treated him as an adult. They explained everything to him, not to me. They addressed everything straight to him like they should have. And I thank them for that. I mean, we don't get many officers that do that. But I think they both went above and beyond. And anytime we've had any kind of dealings with Officer Randall or Officer Yale, we've always had a terrific outcome. They've always treated us with respect. They've never treated us like we were a pain or a nuisance or whatever. But I feel those two are a very valuable asset to our police department, and I want to publicly thank them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any additional comments to the commission? Seeing none, we'll move on. I'd like to make a comment if I could. I know we have a section down at the bottom for commissioner comments, but I'm going to take this opportunity to address the situation I think it's necessary to do at this moment. Appreciate Mr. Taylor coming forward and addressing the thoughtfulness and the thankfulness and the pride that we have in our employees stepping forward when duty calls. A lot of times when you're in trouble or, and I don't want to use the word trouble, but a lot of times when you're in need and you need help, I tell my kids, I say, you call a policeman or you call a fireman when you need help. Well, the city needed help. We're in a bind. And we called a fireman. And he stepped forward and he did everything within his power to keep us afloat, to do the very best job that I think anybody was capable of doing under the circumstances. And I'd like to send you on a trip to Vegas, but the best I can do is a plaque. James Grimmett, could you come here? On behalf of the city of Coffeyville, the citizens, businesses, city staff, commission, myself, Mayor Williams, I'd like to appreciate your contribution to the city. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you guys for this, but this is a team effort. And the team that was sitting at the table, even the guys that are out there working on the street, everyone deserves this. This is what we should do.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
You got a week left.
Not quite.
All right, now that we've got all the sentimental things out of the way, we'll move forward. Old business, resolution number R-15-96, a resolution to execute an access agreement with Coffeyville Resources. Cindy Price, could you make comments on this,
Mayor and
please?
Commissioners, I put this under old business. At the last meeting, you approved an access agreement for Coffeyville Resources in order to construct their pipeline. Unbeknownst to city staff, there were actually 3 different legals that needed to be attached to that resolution, and we just have one of those. So in order to get all 3, what we're asking tonight is that you rescind the previous resolution, approve the new resolution that was emailed out to you this afternoon in the revised agenda packet, and that includes all 3 legal descriptions, plus the drawings that are attached. And this is for the construction of their pipeline. It's an access to go across some city-owned property.
I don't have any questions in reference to that. I do have a question in reference to the procedure. Do we need to have a motion to rescind the original motion, or is it all
Just do
consolidated?
it all in one.
Okay, so I move to approve resolution number R-15-96.
Second.
Motion was made by Mayor Williams and seconded by Commissioner Martin, and I'm actually going to include, rescind the original motion so that we can document that for the minutes.
Okay.
To rescind resolution number R-15-82 and approve resolution number R-15-96 for adoption. Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Mayor Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Powell?
Aye.
Commissioner Castler?
Aye. New business, resolution to execute a memorandum of agreement with Montgomery County for 3rd floor of City Hall. Paul Kreitz, make comments, City Attorney.
Mayor and Commissioners, for several decades, the city has provided space to the county for court facilities on the 3rd floor of the City Hall building. The relationship between the city and the county and the district court is basically one of landlord and tenant, and it's been a good relationship, but from time to time there has been uncertainty about the obligations of the parties when it comes to maintaining the 3rd floor, and issues have always been worked out, but not always without a certain level of frustration by both sides. Most recently, there was an issue with the HVAC system in a small courtroom. For several weeks, it didn't operate as it should. I think both sides were questioning whose responsibility it was. As it turned out, the system was repaired with a pretty cheap part that was replaced by the city's HVAC person. That and other past situations led to the decision it was probably time to try to formalize an agreement between the city and the county regarding maintenance of the 3rd floor, and that's what this memorandum of agreement attempts to do. Turning to the agreement itself, the state law requires the district court to maintain offices in the cities of Independence and the city of Coffeyville. So it's going to stay here. There's another state law that requires the Board of Commissioners to make all necessary provisions for the holding, conducting, and maintaining of court in the city of Independence and in the city of Coffeyville. There's another state law that provides that the Board of County Commissioners are to provide adequate funds to operate the district court. And then there's another state law that requires the city to place at the disposal of the county rooms in which to hold said court in Coffeyville without cost to the county. What this agreement does is basically sets forth that the third floor would continue to be used by the county for the court, for court services, for community corrections, for the sheriff, and related purposes, that the county would not be obligated to pay rent, that the county, without going into a lot of detail, essentially the county would maintain the interior portions of the third floor, the HVAC systems in all locations except the small courtroom, and the city would essentially maintain the exterior and the mechanical components and the structural components of the third floor. In addition, the county would share in the utility costs at the rate of $1,500 per month. Be happy to try to answer any questions you may have regarding this agreement.
Commissioners, questions?
I don't have any.
Pretty straightforward.
Motion.
I move to approve resolution number R-15-87 for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Powell and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-15-87 for adoption. Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Resolution number R-15-88, a resolution to purchase wireless equipment. IT Director Chris Felix will make comments.
Mayor, Commissioner, good evening. At the last meeting in May, the Commission approved the Internet utility purchasing some trial equipment to try out in the rural area to test out so that we can see if this equipment we're looking at will be a good replacement for our non-line of sight equipment. We've been running that test for nearly 40 days successfully, and we discussed some of this in budget session. Moving forward, we'd like to start with a small initial rollout of 50 units to to replace these non-line of sight customers. In my staff report, there are two quotes in there, one from ISP Supplies, the other from PCS Technologies. ISP Supplies is the company we bought the trial equipment from, and their quote for the 50 units was also cheaper than PCS Technologies. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions you might have in regards to the equipment. Our installer, Bruce Fouts, is here if you've got any questions in regards to those trial customers or the customers in general.
And when we say it was a successful trial, what is that based on? What kind of feedback is that based on?
I'll let Bruce address that one. The equipment did work in the areas where we had major foliage problems. It actually penetrated the trees better than the actual 900 equipment. But Bruce can talk to their experience.
Okay.
Basically, we just set up 5 units, test sites, people that had problems, also that would use an excessive amount of bandwidth. One of them's a business. Speeds were several times faster than what they were used to. We made a joke about wearing a seatbelt the first day or two using it after compared to what they used to be on.
What is the speed?
Well, these were left wide open, so they were getting up to 20, even 30 megs of download speed, probably 10 or so up. They'll be throttled into packages, but right now they're purchasing 1 meg and a half up, which was great when you replaced dial-up, but
Yeah,
now,
that's like cable speeds, 30 meg.
exactly. First time we've come across something that's the right price and has the connectivity of our Motorola, which is our non-line of sight equipment. That's the good thing about it. It's something that'll do just as well with connection. With non-line of sight, your biggest enemy is the trees.
So these new packages that will be offered to these people are going to be priced differently than what they were paying for originally?
Yes, they'll have an option. They'll have some options there that we're looking at. Most of the feedback that I'm getting from the majority is, a $20 increase to help compensate the difference. And of course, they'll be getting probably 6 times what they were getting before. And so the trade-off's good. Plus, they're not buying equipment. There's no contract.
So obviously the money to pay for this comes out of the fund, Internet Utility Fund balance,
Yes.
which is essentially profits off of the sales of prior internet service.
Yeah.
Do you know how quickly the investment of this equipment will pay for itself if these packages are priced adequately?
If we're just basing it off the 50 customers, I don't have that off the top of my head. But once we get everything replaced, all the 200 some odd customers on this 900 year replacement, 2.5 years.
Not to mention, there's at least, I've just started a new sign-up list. I've turned away several over the years because we haven't been able to install them and add more people to our existing network. I would expect easily 100 to more to be waiting when that happens, just in 5 days. Yeah, of new customers to be added to that. And I've gotten a dozen just in 3 days. So, and this is going to be a while before we get 200 customers switched out. So by then, I'm sure it'll be, and the word's already getting out that we're thinking of doing it. So
Okay.
I get a call daily.
I have no other questions.
So you anticipate by making this investment, it will broaden our customer base, which in turn will broaden our potential income.
Yes. Yeah. We've lost a few hundred customers over the years because of not being able to upgrade, and I'm expecting those back.
Because as it stands right now, you're still 2 to 3 years off before it's actually profiting.
Yes.
Right now, you're spending money you made previously.
Yes.
Not actually profiting anything yet.
Explain the difference between what we have now and what this new product is.
With the non-line of sight equipment?
Yes.
Well, basically, we're limited to about a 1 meg connection, if that. The access points are overloaded. We were told it could do more than what it really could. So you're limited there. That's the biggest thing, is speed. People, when we installed first, they had 1 computer, and now people have 6, 7, even 12 devices in a home, and they need more and more bandwidth. People are using Netflix and other TV guides online, and so the bandwidth is there. Our problem was finding something that would connect through the trees, which is always the biggest problem with non-line of sight, and especially Montgomery County. We've got really old trees, and they're very tall, very dense, and that's always been the problem. We usually lose about 20 a year just with trees.
So this will help correct that issue.
Yes.
But this is only pushing out for rural, just to clarify. This is not
Yes.
for inside the city. This will
Exactly.
not have any impact.
Definitely
on the
rural customers.
quality of it at all.
Right. Okay, thank you.
The other alternative, and I must say this, is if we don't do something, you have to look at the other side of the coin and at the rate that we were losing. And of course, if the word got out that we weren't going to be able to do anything, maybe 2 years you would have a network left, maybe, at the increase they were going.
Okay. I move to approve resolution R-15-88 for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Powell and seconded by Mayor Williams to approve resolution number R-15-88 for adoption. Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
No.
Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution number R-15-89, a resolution to submit an application for federal Edward Bryan Memorial Justice assistance grant for purchase of radio equipment. Police Captain Danny Gregg will make comments.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Danny with the Police Department. I'm here to request authority or ask permission to apply for a federal grant. The federal grant's the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, as you just said. It's made available each year to law enforcement to assist in numerous public safety type projects. Specifically, we would like to use this to purchase communication equipment. We would like to purchase a repeater that we could place in the City of Independence and a repeater to place in the City of Caney. This would allow our communications coverage a wider spread, so if and when we're outside the city, we would have still communications. This grant requires no matching funds from the City of Coffeyville. The cost that we're anticipating to do this project is $20,051. Again, there's no matching funds from the city required. We're just needing your permission to apply for the grant.
Questions?
No, sir.
Move to approve resolution number 15-89.
Second.
Motion was made by Mayor Williams and seconded by Commissioner Kessler to approve resolution number R-15-89 for adoption. Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Commissioner Kessler?
Aye.
Mayor Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Powell?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution number R-15-90, a resolution to authorize the repair of boiler number 4, low NOx burners for the electric utility. Electric Generation Superintendent Tony Lawson will make comments.
Mayor, Commissioners, each year our steam generator boilers 4 and 5 are inspected annually by Chubb Insurance for the integrity, safety, and the proper operation of the 2 boilers. This inspection is then forwarded on to the state Kansas State Chief Boiler Inspector, who will issue operating permits for these boilers. On May 14th, an inspection was completed by Chubb on the boilers 4 and 5. A certificate blocking violation was recorded due to the fact the 2 south low NOx burners had suffered damage due to the effects of the heating cycle. This is largely part due to the current mode of operation and the way these units are dispatched. The unit has been allowed to remain in service, but as per the violation report, these repairs must be made prior to October 1st. Pricing for these repairs were sought from several boiler welding repair firms. However, Associated Mechanical is the Todd combustion burner representative and is the only firm able to receive the original specification drawings for these burners. 2 other firms submitted budgetary quotes and stated they would have to reverse engineer any repairs that were made because they would not be able to get the drawings. Associated Mechanical was the lowest cost vendor to submit a budgetary quote with overtime cost included to facilitate the repairs for consecutive days. Staff recommendation would be to proceed with AMI as a sole source purchase. Staff recommends the authorization of a purchase order in the amount of $71,978 to Associated Mechanical for the repairs of boiler 4 low NOx burners.
Questions? Questions? Motion.
I move to approve resolution R-1590 for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Powell and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-15-90 for adoption. Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Kessler.
Aye.
Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Resolution number 15-91, a resolution to execute purchase of natural gas dew point heating system for the electric utility generation facility number 2. Mike Shook, Electric Utility Deputy Director.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. The first of three items I have for you this evening, as you stated, is to execute an agreement to supply a natural gas heating equipment for the new Ward-Silly engines. These fuel gas dew point heaters are used to remove any residual moisture from the natural gas to ensure the gas quality to the new units. We did issue a public request for bids to purchase this equipment. We received two proposals, one being from Aether at a cost of $213,525, and a second from Sigma Thermal at a cost of $248,625. Both proposals were evaluated by Burns McDonnell engineers and the City of Coffeyville utility staff. I've included in your packet a bid summary and analysis, and based upon that, staff recommends that the mayor be authorized to enter into an agreement with Aether DBS LLC to supply a natural gas dew point heating system in the amount not to exceed $213,525 for the electric utilities generation facility number 2. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? So you're trying to, you said this treats the gas before it goes into?
Heats the gas.
It heats the gas.
Yeah, we've already purchased the fuel gas filters.
Uh-huh.
That gets any contaminants. This actually is like a small boiler in itself. It actually heats the gas to the desired temperature before they enter the engine.
Dryer, basically, right?
Yeah. And there's, in the packet, there should have been some literature and some pictures of the equipment itself.
Motion.
I move to approve Resolution R-1591 for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Powell and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-15-91 for adoption. Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye. Resolution R-15-92, a resolution to execute an agreement with utility contractors to complete the site preparation for the electric utility generation facility number 2. Mike Shook, gonna make some comments.
The second item, this is for site preparation. We did issue a public request for bids to complete this work as designed by Burns McDonnell engineers. We received 4 proposals in total. The lowest bidder being Utility Contractors Incorporated out of Wichita, Kansas. They come in with a price of $1,177,600. Again, as with all these bids, they were evaluated by Burns McDonnell and city staff as well. I've also included a bid summary and analysis. Therefore, staff recommends that the mayor be authorized to enter into an agreement with Utility Contractors Incorporated to perform and complete as designed the site preparation in the amount of $1,177,600 for the generation facility number 2.
Could you give a real simple explanation of what they're going to do?
They're going to do the dirt work.
So we're going to start building the power plant.
October.
Based on the specs and the presentation that was
Yes, sir.
given a few months ago.
Yes, sir, and actually, the next item that I have before you is for the underground utilities and foundations. They come in as low bid, so we're going in for both.
Move to approve resolution number R-15-92.
Second.
Motion was made by Mayor Williams and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-15-92 for adoption. Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Resolution number R-15-93, resolution to execute an agreement with utility contractors to complete the foundations and underground utilities for the electric utility generation facility number 2.
Mayor and Commissioners, as we just discussed, on this item also, we did issue a public request for bids. We actually received 6 total proposals on this item. Utility Contractors Incorporated, again out of Wichita, came in as a low bid. They were evaluated by Burns McDonnell and city staff as well. They come in at a cost of $3,055,000 to complete the underground utilities and foundations. Therefore, staff recommends that the mayor be authorized to enter into an agreement with Utility Contractors Incorporated to perform and complete as designed the foundations and underground utilities in the amount of $3,055,000 for Generation Facility Number 2. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
Questions?
I move to approve Resolution R-1593 for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Powell and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-15-93 for adoption. Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Resolution number R-15-94, resolution finding deficiencies in condition at railroad crossings in the city of Coffeyville. City Attorney Paul Kreitz.
Mayor and Commissioners, city code imposes a duty on railway companies operating a railroad within a city to maintain the crossings in a passable condition so that vehicles can cross the tracks, quote, with ease and facility, end quote. I think we all agree that in their current conditions, the crossings at 1st Street and 4th Street do not allow vehicles to cross the tracks with ease or facility. At the last meeting, you directed me to put the railroad on notice if the city wanted the crossings to be repaired. Our ordinance provides that in the event a railway company fails or neglects to maintain suitable crossings within 20 days after notice is served, then the city can repair the crossings, and the cost of the improvements can be a lien on the property of the railway company and may be assessed and taxed against the railway property. However, the ordinance also provides that the written notice is to be ordered by the Board of Commissioners, signed by the mayor, and attested by the city clerk. So what you see here is my attempt to comply with the requirements of the ordinance in order to put Watco on notice that they need to do something about those track crossings.
And if they do not, follow suit?
If they don't, the option of the city would be to put it out for bid and try to get somebody in there, a contractor in there, to make suitable repairs.
And then send the bill to Watco.
Send a bill to Watco, and if they don't pay it,
Put it as a lien.
assess their property.
I
They'll
don't-
challenge us. They'll challenge us on that for sure, but obviously something needs to be done about those crossings.
We could probably bring about 5,000 witnesses that says they're railroad.
Or more.
I don't think
I
it.
think Max Williams would like to be on that list.
And so this is the beginning of your correspondence with them. After this approval, you will
Yeah.
send notice to them.
It's the beginning of my notice to them. I don't know if anybody else has reached out to them to try to.
I have. They know the tracks are bad, and they were notified immediately after the last meeting. And so they're aware.
They say anything about doing anything?
I advised them that a letter would be forthcoming. And actually, they said the letter would help.
I move that we approve the sending of the letter.
I had a question. Does this resolution then put in place a procedure for future, or is this just specifically for this?
It's specifically to those crossings.
Based on the ordinance that's already there?
Yes.
We're talking about South Walnut and
1st Street and 4th Street?
First and fourth.
Just 1st and 4th.
They just repaired South Walnut.
Right. After a complaint.
Curious, why would the letter help? You said they...
My understanding is that they were backed up and that they have a lot of railroad crossings that are in need of repair.
Okay.
This may put these crossings to the front of the list.
Yeah. Okay. I second your motion.
Well, I was just saying, I think I was not making a motion. I was just saying, I think that we should approve this because I think that this opens the line of communications with them. And this, you know, they can get folks calling, you know, 2 or 3 citizens calling, but if the city approaches them and says, this is a major problem, we want something done about it, it's for safety reasons, it's not just because, you know, it's eyesore or something like this. This is a actual physical safety hazard, and if you're not going to fix it, we are, then I think that'll get this thing pushed to the front of the list.
Well, and in the letter, it also invites them to contact us if they can't get them repaired within 20 days to discuss a reasonable time frame. So, we've reached out to them to at least give them the opportunity to contact us and let us know what their proposed schedule is.
And if we had an open dialogue with them where they would just approach the city and say, hey, we know that it's bad, and this is our schedule, it would be far more acceptable to accept the rough tracks for if we know that there's an opening on this day, they're going to start on this, versus we're in the dark.
Right.
My opinion. Motion.
Mayor, you already made the motion.
No, I didn't make I said I moved that we approve this because that wasn't an actual motion, but I'll make the motion.
Okay.
It's good enough for me. I second it.
The motion was
The
made by
halfway
Mayor
motion.
Williams and
Then
seconded by Commissioner Powell to approve resolution number R-15-94 for adoption. Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Powell.
aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye. Final resolution, R-15-95, resolution to revise city personnel manual relating to non-represented employees. Paul Kreitz make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, the mayor actually requested this item be on the agenda for your consideration this evening. The purpose of this resolution is to emphasize the nature of the employment relationship between the city and its non-represented personnel. That is, non-represented personnel are strictly at-will employees. The proposed amendments to the city's personnel manual were prepared by the city's outside labor attorney. In my correspondence with him, he commented that the manual already provides that the policies and guidelines set out in the manual do not create contractual employment rights for non-represented employees, and that all non-represented employees are currently considered to be at-will employees for the purposes of city employment. In other words, any non-represented employee or the city may terminate the employment relationship at any time with or without cause. You've been provided with a version of the resolution where the proposed changes are underlined. I'd be happy to discuss any of those particulars if you have any questions about them. The labor attorney also commented that although these changes accentuate the at-will nature of the employment relationship, the city does not always have unbounded discretion, in his words, when it comes to the decision to discharge employees. And I think that's why the labor attorney recommended the, quote, so long as there is no unlawful motivation for the action verbiage. With that, I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
I don't have any questions.
None.
None.
Move to approve resolution 15-95.
Second.
Motion was made by Mayor Williams and seconded by Commissioner Martin to approve resolution number R-15-95 for adoption. Commissioner Castler.
No.
Commissioner Powell.
Aye.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
City manager report.
Mayor and Commissioners, two things. National Night Out, August 4th, up at the Aquatic Center, Feaster Park, 6:30? 5:30. We invite everyone to come out. It will be a fun time to associate with the workers, police, and fire personnel.
Be some music there.
What's that?
Be some music there.
Oh, yeah.
Take care of that.
And also, the other thing is a citywide cleanup. We are going to have one this year. It will be under the direction of Public Works Department. And right now it's scheduled for October 12th through 17. It will actually be a week long. And we used to hold these in the past, where you go and you take your unwanted items out to the tree dump, and there will be personnel there to help you. And we will also organize a volunteer group to go out and to the residents and pick up the items that they can't bring to us. So stay tuned. You'll see further information about that, but we will be having one. That's all I have.
I want to piggyback on the National Night Out. Of course, August 3rd will be our new city manager's first day. He will be out at National Night Out, and he'll be at the city table where we do the drawings, the sign up for the drawings. So we want to encourage everybody to come out and meet the new city manager. That'll be a great opportunity for our citizens to come out and meet Kendall.
Comments from commissioners or staff? Any staff reports or staff comments?
Good evening, Commissioners. I wanted to give you a quick update economic development-wise. There's been some developments that have happened in the last couple weeks, and I wanted to make sure everyone was clear what was going on. First of all is the transloading project. We worked extremely hard. We had a great partnership set up with Watco Railroad, the Port of Catoosa, Montgomery County Action Council, and numerous businesses in this area to help put that proposal together. Basically, we found out we just weren't one of the top candidates according to KDOT's final selection on what their priorities were for this pilot project. Our costs were a little higher than those top 7 candidates that were selected. So those costs were provided by Watco, as they would have been the developer and operator of the facility. We did find out that Great Plains Development Authority in Lebec County was selected as a top 7 candidate, and they are going up to Topeka this week to present on their proposal. We have talked with several businesses to let them know, the ones that we worked with, to let them know that they were still a candidate, and they were very excited because it still could help their business significantly. Right now, most of the businesses we talk to are shipping their goods all the way up to Kansas City to get onto an intermodal, then to get to Los Angeles or Florida, wherever they're headed to get exports. So it could really help our businesses here in Montgomery County and in Southeast Kansas if they are the candidate, and they are the only Southeast Kansas candidate that would really be within driving distance for our businesses that would really help them. So we're excited that they're still a candidate. Watco has let us know, though, that our project is absolutely not dead. There's been so much demand because of this process that's come up. They've had businesses contact them saying they would like to come here. Port of Catoosa basically told us they're at capacity, and they would love to start sending every single business that comes to them that wants to use their port straight to us, to our industrial park. So this project, we spent $5,000 on, and we probably could generate more money in the long run just because we put so much effort into this project. So it's exciting. I also want to let people know that we have some promising leads coming up on our buildings out at the industrial park. We've been working very hard to market them, and one of the ways we were marketing has been somewhat fruitful. So in the first part of August, I would really encourage our community to rally around our town and be the best cheerleaders they possibly can. If they meet a citizen or a random stranger they've never seen in Coffeyville, maybe that first part of August, give them your best spiel on why Coffeyville is the place to come for your business, why it's a place to live, why it's a place to work, so that we can try to get these new businesses into our town and start turning this thing around. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anything we need to do to help you with the Watco project?
I'll let you know. Right now, at this point, we're on pause until we find out what's going on with Great Plains. Watco is not part of their proposal at all, so that is definitely good for us. But Port of Catoosa has already said they're sending any leads up to us because we already have that rail infrastructure. We would just need to get some ladders set up on what infrastructure we do have out at the site we were looking at. So,
Just because I don't know, I'm asking.
Yeah.
Why are we waiting to see what happens to Parsons?
primarily because we don't want to hurt their chances by saying we're absolutely going forward. KDOT might not invest money in that area. The difference between our proposal and what we're going to be working on is ours is Watco. It's short line railroad, and that would be our transloading facility. Their facility would be a Union Pacific facility, and it's a Class 1. So those businesses that maybe could get onto our short line still and still get to their facility via another route, they could still use it to get the north and south Union Pacific route. That would still be extremely beneficial to us. But we don't want to portray that image right now of, well, we're going to go forward anyway, because we do have that Union Pacific route, although it would not be nearly as viable as our Watco route that we're really pursuing. So we just don't want to shoot that option in the foot, or even give the image that we are. It really wouldn't hurt it. I think if anything, it will help both projects if we do go forward on one here. But it's always that image that KDOT could see, well, they're already putting that investment in. Why do we want to put that investment in? We don't want to hinder that project. So,
How long is the process going to be until they're finished picking out the final one? Because I know it's been a long process. And kind of
it officially started at the end of March. The first proposal was submitted, I think it was March 31st, if I remember right. And then they will let the final people know the first week of August, is what the last questionnaire that we turned in said. It sounds like they're on target for that. I know they're meeting on the 30th and the 31st, and the 1st, I think, of August to make that final determination with the committee. And I was told by an actual committee member on that. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Additional staff comments?
Mayor and Commissioners, we will be having our public hearing for our budget at the next commission meeting, August 11th meeting, so just a reminder of that. And also I have sent Cindy an electronic version of our 2014 audit so that can be posted on our website for anyone interested in looking at that.
Additional comments from staff? Comments from commissioners?
How we doing over on the first and second floor?
How are we doing on the first and second floor?
I know they said they could possibly be in there by the end of the month working. Are we?
They're in there working now.
They're in there working now?
Yes.
Doing pretty good?
I haven't been in there to check on them, but
So we are making noise in there, though.
Oh yeah, they're
All
making
right.
noise.
I think they started yesterday.
And we're still dumping coal. And the policy is if you have a complaint to contact PD or that guy. Last meeting, right?
I had someone contact me, and I referred them to PD.
Okay, that's the policy. Contact PD. That's all I got.
Anything?
I'd ask that you probably have knowledge of the coal ordinances. I would forward the coal ordinances to the police department if you haven't, because I mean, if somebody called me about some coal, I'd be like, oh, what do you want me to do about it?
Yeah, it's one of those gray areas because it could also be addressed by code enforcement.
Okay.
But we need documents, proof, et cetera.
So.
What Watco explained to me about the coal operation is that when they started working with us on the transload facility, they thought, aha, this might be a good place for the coal operation, the industrial park, away from residents. So they kind of put that movement on hold until they found out, this is their explanation to me, until they found out that that wasn't going to happen. Even though it's two different divisions, sections of Watco, they still talk. Now maybe they shouldn't have made that plan, but they did. So and that's the reason why they tell me that we are still, the coal operation is still here and not up north.
And in all reality, I think that the industrial park would be, they wanted to keep their coal here.
Well, the logic makes sense.
Would be
The logic makes sense to me.
Take it out to the industrial park. I mean, they have a line out there, correct? I mean, if they be more than happy to have their coal here out at the industrial park instead of here in town.
Is that gonna affect stuff at?
Well, I think it would have to, I mean, it would have to be on someone's property. I mean, they don't, other than the
I
line.
thought it was, anyway.
Will that still cause a problem out in Industrial Park with those buildings as a whole, doing, cars and stuff?
Yes,
So we're just moving the problem?
but it's away from the residents. No one lives in the industrial park.
And the individuals with their cars and the businesses can worry about it.
And depending on the location, if it's in a rural part of the industrial park, it's probably not gonna do anything anyway, because the, as that travels, that dissipates in the air. I think that if they wanted to continue to have their coal here, that would be a more viable option. Or Cherryvale sounds good too.
Cherryville is still pursuing that. They've reached a hang-up, and that's also why they were looking at our site. Apparently, there is a gas line that runs parallel to the Watco line at the former Sherwin-Williams, or a smelting plant, I think it was, there in Cherryville. Apparently, they will not allow Watco to run a line over that gas line, and so that's why that project's been stalled on the Cherryville end, too. So they're looking for other alternatives to try to get them here. So.
Thank you. Additional comments? I don't have any additional comments at this time. I do have a question. A couple weeks ago, I brought up a issue about some cameras at the electric plant, and I was wondering if those have been addressed. Okay. Okay, thank you. I don't have any further comments. Anyone else? Staff? That concludes tonight's City Commission meeting. I don't know of any reason to have any executive session, so therefore I move that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
All-
Motion was made by Mayor Williams and seconded by Commissioner Martin to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye. Adjourned.
Hey, 8 o'clock, get it. Time for group vote.